Today's lesson is Charlie Puth, from YouTube star to superstar. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And today we're talking about a new sensation in the world of pop music, Charlie Puth. Maybe you've heard of him before. He's got quite a few popular songs out there. You can watch the videos on YouTube or hear them on the radio or whatever. And we're talking about the fact that he got his start by posting videos on YouTube, and now he has become a superstar.
Yes, so he's among those people, including Justin Bieber, who got their start on YouTube. They started uploading videos of themselves performing. Somebody discovered them that way, and then they carried their talent and their work from the online world to the offline world. So offline world would include live venues, concert halls, and other places where people can go see these performers perform live.
Indeed. And remember, we're talking about the fact that Charlie Puth was bullied as a young man. And, of course, that made him afraid of performing live in front of people. So, therefore, YouTube was the perfect venue for him to express himself in terms of music. And I guess he was discovered as a result of that. But soon after he got all those subscribers, he took his music into the offline world, which we're going to talk about today. So let's begin our lesson by listening to the first part, and we'll be right back to discuss it.
By the time Puth released his debut album 9-Track Mind, he had already been on the top of the Billboard charts and secured 3 Grammy nominations. Not bad for a kid who started out singing songs in his bedroom. 2 albums later, he's still pushing his musical boundaries, trying out different ways to write and play.
大家好，我们来看第一部分中的单字 debut， 它是名词，意思是首次亮相或是首次登台。例如 The actor's stage debut received positive reviews. 这位演员的首次亮相得到了正面的评论。或者 Allison made her debut as a model when she was 16 years old. Allison 在她16岁时作为模特儿首次登台。另外 debut 也可以当作动词使用。例如The new play debuted during the theater festival this June. 这出新戏在今年6月的戏剧节中首次亮相。又或者是 The play debuted to a full house. 这部剧作首次登台就高朋满座。下一个我们来介绍名词 nomination. 它的意思是提名、任命或是指定。例如 Eva's novel earned her a nomination for Best Young Author. Eva 的小说让她获得最佳青年作家的提名。又或者是 The series has already received nominations for several awards. 这部影集已获得数个奖项的提名。另外补充相关动词 nominate. N-O-M-I-N-A-T-E nominate. 它有提名、指定或是任命的意思。例如 The panel of judges nominated 12 finalists for the film competition. 评审团在影片竞赛中提名了12位决赛入围者。又或者说 Jeff's teammates nominated him to be their captain. Jeff 的队友提名他当队长。接下来我们看到名词 boundary. 它是界限、边界或是分界线的意思。例如 Some modern painters like to push the boundaries of what actually constitutes art. 一些现代画家喜欢推展艺术的界限。又或者说All people have personal boundaries that they expect other people to respect. 每个人都有他们期望别人能够尊重的个人界限。
By the time Puth released his debut album 9-Track Mind, he had already been on the top of the Billboard charts and secured 3 Grammy nominations. Not bad for a kid who started out singing songs in his bedroom. In the first part of the sentence, by the time Puth released his debut album 9-Track Mind, we find out that this album, titled 9-Track Mind, was his debut album. A debut album is the first album that a musician puts out. So you can also use the word for other fields like writing and acting. You can refer to an actor's debut in Hollywood or an actor's debut film, which is the first film that the actor has made, or a writer's debut novel, which would be the first novel that the writer has put out.
Right, so he released his debut album, 9-Track Mind, and by the time he did that, when that happened, he had already been on the top of the Billboard charts and secured 3 Grammy nominations. Not bad for a kid who started out singing songs in his bedroom. So we know he did all sorts of things before he actually released his first album, his debut album. He had been on the top of the Billboard charts. In case you didn't know, Billboard is a magazine or a platform that ranks songs in terms of popularity. They have the Hot 100, which lists the 100 most popular songs, and then they have the album charts, which list the albums in terms of sales or popularity. And so he was on the top of those charts. He was quite popular on the Billboard listings, and he also secured 3 Grammy nominations. If you secure something, that means you get it, you obtain it. Usually, it's something that is difficult to get. So he got those Grammy nominations. The Grammy Awards are awards given for musical performances as opposed to the Oscars being given for people in films. And so he got 3 Grammy nominations, not the Grammy Awards, but getting the nominations is pretty good as well. And that's not bad for a kid who was singing his songs in his bedroom. And I guess that's where he performed his songs, recording himself first and then posting them on YouTube.
Yes, so a nomination is basically an official suggestion that somebody should get a prize. So if Charlie Puth got a nomination for a Grammy Award, it wasn't that the fans decided that he should win, but perhaps a group of judges that run the Grammy Awards decided Charlie Puth has achieved a lot and we should nominate him, or we should name him as one of the people who should be able to win the award. Now, after Charlie Puth put out his debut album, 9-Track Mind, he put out 2 other albums. So 2 albums later, he's still pushing his musical boundaries, trying out different ways to write and play. Boundary here refers to the limit of something, the limits of an activity or an experience. And by pushing his musical boundaries, Puth is trying to do things differently. Maybe he's trying to sing in a different style or write different kinds of songs from the ones that appeared in his debut album. So he's trying to push musical boundaries. I could also say, for instance, that AI, artificial intelligence, is pushing the boundaries between what is human and what is non-human.
Right. Boundary, of course, is a limitation in this particular case. It could also be a dividing line between certain areas in a place. Like, for example, if you're driving south toward Hualien, you will cross the boundary of Taroko National Park when you get far enough south there. And he's still pushing his musical boundaries. He's doing more than what he's used to doing, and he's trying out different ways to write songs and to play songs, maybe trying different instruments or trying different chords or notes or whatever, trying to make his music new and interesting. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the second part. Let's listen first.
Puth enjoys being a solo artist, but he likes working with other musicians even more. Many of his biggest hits have come from collaborations with a wide range of acts, from One Direction and Meghan Trainor to James Taylor and Elton John. More recently, he worked with Jungkook from BTS on the song Left and Right, which was a standout experience for him. I certainly don't speak any Korean and Jungkook doesn't really speak too much English, but we're able to communicate and empathize with each other through song, he says.
第二部分介绍名词 collaboration， 它的意思是合作。例如 The new film is the result of a collaboration between 2 famous directors. 这部新电影是2位知名导演合作的成果。又或者说After the failure of their first collaboration, the artists never worked together again. 首次合作即告失败后，这些艺术家未曾再合作过。另外补充这个字的相关动词 collaborate, C-O-L-L-A-B-O-R-A-T-E, collaborate. 它是有合作或是协作的意思。例如 The 2 famous rappers are collaborating on a new album. 那2位知名饶舌歌手正在合作一张新专辑。
Now, Puth enjoys being a solo artist, but he likes working with other musicians even more. So when you're a solo artist, it means you do things by yourself. Perhaps write your own song and you sing your own song. You may have backing musicians, but you're still known to do all of the things by yourself. That's a solo performer. Now, Puth enjoys being a solo performer, but he likes working with other musicians even more. So he prefers working with other musicians to being a solo artist.
Exactly. So yes, indeed, he does enjoy being a solo artist, but he also likes working with other musicians. And many of his biggest hits have come from collaborations with a wide range of acts, from One Direction and Meghan Trainor to James Taylor and Elton John. So we've got these different collaborations that he's done with other artists. A collaboration is a work together with somebody else. It's when you're cooperating with somebody else to work together to produce a certain result. And yes, we do call these sometimes duets if it's with another person, or a trio if you're with two other people or something like that. But in this particular case, he's collaborated with other acts. An act, of course, is a performer, could be a group or a solo performer. And we've got One Direction and we've got Meghan Trainor, and those are more modern acts. And then we've got some more older acts like James Taylor and Elton John. James Taylor goes way back to the 60s there. Maybe you remember the song Fire and Rain. That's an oldie. Or Elton John, of course, he was very popular in the 70s, but he's still going strong now in the 2020s.
That's right. So he's worked with a lot of different musicians, some from around 30 years ago, 20 years ago, others from 50 years ago, like James Taylor, Elton John. Even though they're still performing and they're still working, they haven't retired yet, but they're acts, they're performers from around 50 years ago. And more recently, he worked with Jungkook from BTS on the song Left and Right, which was a standout experience for him. So he has also worked with a member from BTS, the K-pop band, on the song, which is called Left and Right. And Charlie Puth considered this to be a standout experience. So something that is standout or described to be standout means that it's really noticeable because it's so good. It's so much better than anything else. Charlie Puth has worked with so many artists, but he considered working with the member from BTS as a standout, exceptional experience because perhaps he had a really good time or he was able to get a lot of knowledge and good experiences from that collaboration.
Yep, stand out means somebody who stands out. For example, I could say LeBron James is a standout player in the NBA. And yes, indeed, this was a significant or a standout experience for him when he was working with Jungkook, who is from BTS. That's a Korean boy band. And I certainly don't speak any Korean, and Jungkook doesn't really speak too much English, but we're able to communicate and empathize with each other through song, he says. That's what Charlie Puth said about his experience working with Jungkook from the boy band BTS. And the song is entitled Left and Right. And again, we're talking about this being a standout experience for him. He doesn't speak a lot of Korean, and Jungkook doesn't really speak a lot of English, but they were able to communicate and empathize with each other. So here, to empathize means to share feelings, to understand and share the feelings of another person. For example, if you're a psychologist, you need to empathize with your patients. You need to sort of feel the way they're feeling.
Right. So empathize is kind of similar to sympathize. But when you empathize with someone, you're able to understand how they feel. When you sympathize with someone, you may not understand how they feel, but you feel bad for them, or you understand that they feel sad, and so your heart goes out to them. So these two words are similar, but also kind of different from each other.
Right, so they couldn't communicate in each other's language, but they spoke the language of music, and they did quite well. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's listen now to the third and final part.
Puth's future plans are to travel the world, meeting and working with as many artists and performing for as many people as he can. He enjoys all the praise for his music, but what he really wants is to go out and inspire the music in others.
Now, Puth's future plans are to travel the world, meeting and working with as many artists and performing for as many people as he can. So that's what Puth would like to do in the future. He would like to continue collaborating with other artists, and he wants to travel around the world and perform for different people. And that's how he envisions his professional future.
Right. I think I read somewhere that he's still not comfortable in performing in front of audiences. He is kind of a private person, and he's having difficulty dealing with the fame. Some people love being famous. Other people are more reserved, perhaps, and they don't enjoy being such a center of attention. And I understand that is a little bit of a problem that he has. But still, he wants to continue meeting and working with other artists. Maybe not performing so much in front of live audiences, but still, I guess he's trying to come out of his shell here. And it says that he does want to perform for as many people as he can, perhaps on YouTube itself. And he enjoys all the praise for his music, but what he really wants is to go out and inspire the music in others. So yes, indeed, if you receive praise for something, that means people are giving you compliments about something. And yes, indeed, he does have a unique voice, a unique musical style. So lots of people are praising him. They're complimenting him. They say that he's doing a really good job.
Right. So hopefully Puth will be able to do all the things that he envisions for his future, and that he will have a long and lasting career and make a lot more music for everybody to enjoy.
Right, so of course he wants to perform himself, but here at the end it says he wants to go out and inspire the music in others. And that's what a lot of musicians do. They perform, they're influenced by other artists before them, and then newer artists in the future will be inspired by you as well. And musicians are certainly aware that they're doing this. They're also aware that they received some of their ideas from artists in the past, like modern musicians often cite, say, the Beatles or the Rolling Stones as an influence in their music. And then in the future, we'll have new musicians saying that, oh yes, Charlie Puth inspired me, or Justin Bieber inspired me to be the musician that I am today. All right, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. It's time now to turn things over to Hanny, our beloved Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny， 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文一开始写到 Charlie Puth 在发行首张专辑天马行空时，他已经登上告示牌排行榜的榜首，并获得3项格莱美奖的提名。对于一个从在房间里唱歌展开事业的小子来说，相当不错。好，课文他用到 By the time Puth released he had already been 来表达说，在他发行什么什么时，他已经怎么样怎么样。那这边我们就来介绍一下 by the time 的用法。By the time 是用来引导时间副词子句，表示说到什么什么的时候，到什么什么时间之前。好，那么 by the time 加主词加动词，这部分呢可以摆在主要子句之前或是之后，用来描述在那个时间点之前的状态或是已发生的事情。那这可以指过去或未来的情况哦。首先指过去情况的话， by the time 引导的子句就是用过去式。那么主要子句呢，可以用过去简单式啊，或者是过去完成式 had 加 pp 来强调说动作已经发生或完成。举例来说 By the time we got there, there were no more seats left. 我们到的时候已经没有空位了。好，那么再来指未来情况时， by the time 引导的子句呢是用现在简单式。那么主要子句呢，你可以用未来简单式 will 加原形动词，或者是用未来完成式 will have 加 pp 来强调说动作预计将会完成。举例来说 By the time you come back, I will have finished my homework. 等你回来时，我就已经写完回家作业了。好，那么另外文中他用到 started out singing songs in his bedroom 来表达从在房间里唱歌展开事业。那这边我们来学习一下 start out 的意思和用法。首先第一种用法就是指开始从事，后面可以接 as 加名词来表达说起初是什么什么，从什么什么做起，以什么样的身份状态开始。例如 They started out as co-workers, but later became close friends. 他们一开始是同事，但后来成了亲近的朋友。那么 start out 之后也可以接动词 ing 来表达说一开始处于某种状态或做某事。举例来说， He started out wanting to be a lawyer, but became a photographer instead. 他一开始想要成为律师，却成了一名摄影师。好，再来第二个用法是我们可以用 start out 表示启程、出发。举例来说， If we start out at 6 a.m., we should get there by noon. 如果我们早上6点出发，应该中午之前就可以到那里了。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Debut. An injury delayed the talented young baseball player's debut as a professional. Secure. The team has finally secured the resources they need to complete the task. Nomination. The politician's nomination for president was reported by all the major television networks. Boundary. The painter's work pushed the boundaries of the meaning of art. Solo. I decided to take a solo trip to England. Collaboration. The artist's latest project is a collaboration with a famous fashion designer.
Discussion starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today, and the question is, do you think it's easier now for musicians to become famous via YouTube than by playing live shows in clubs? Why or why not?
I still think that it's easier for musicians to become famous by playing live shows and clubs, since you really need to be good to play in a live show. When you're recording a YouTube video, you can cut and paste scenes, you can change your voice with auto-tune, and when you perform live, the audience knows when you're really singing by yourself or you're using auto-tune, so you have to be really good to impress a live audience. And when you're really good, it's easier to become famous and be spotted by a record producer. Whereas on YouTube, so many people upload on YouTube and perhaps they're not really talented, but they use a lot of video editing tricks to make themselves look and sound good. And when they do have to perform in a musical venue, then they can't do it because they're just not good enough.
Well, I think it's kind of a combination of both, okay? This is the modern internet era, and you do need to have a presence online. So indeed, you do need to post videos on YouTube, and hopefully you'll be discovered that way. But also, if you're posting music online, people aren't really paying for those songs. You're not really making money unless you're sponsored by somebody. So as somebody once told me, yeah, if you want to be a musician, you have to expect to play live shows quite a bit in order to make a lot of money, because yeah, your music is going to be online and people can listen to it for free on Spotify. Yeah, you might get royalties or something like that, but still most of the money is made by performing in live venues, and that can be quite a lot of fun because you can sort of involve yourself with the crowd and have a really great time and hear their screaming and stuff like that. Plus you get to meet the fans after the concert. So I'm sure in order to become famous, you need to consider all avenues.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Helen.
I am Roger.
See you next time.